Go. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Worldviews. Today, I am joined by Lawrence Krauss, a theoretical physicist, cosmologist, and public intellectual. He's the author of several best-selling books and is the host of the Origins podcast, where he explores big questions with leading thinkers from around the world. Lawrence, thanks for coming on Worldviews.
It's nice to be with you virtually.
Cool. So, Lawrence, let's just kick it off with the Origins podcast. What originally motivated you to start it? I know it's been around for about 6 years now, but I'm interested to see why you started it in the first place.
Well, I've been involved in, obviously, for many, many years in public events, doing public events, and uh, my foundation was created to try and broaden the reach of what we're trying to do to connect people to science and culture, to excite people about the universe, prepare them for the challenges of the 21st century. And it it was it seemed that we could reach a broader audience if we put things online instead of doing just events in different cities. Plus, frankly, for better or worse, I have built up quite a Rolodex in my years of people from science and the arts and film and journalism and literature, and it seemed a great chance to try and delve into that and trying to explore as broadly as we could. So it was an ambitious thing to try and do, and I remember we began it by going to 3 countries, filming 18 podcasts in 19 days, and it was quite a challenge.
Yeah, when you first started, did you immediately have I assume you had an ideal guest in your head that you wanted to come on, like, immediately?
Yeah, I mean, we built up a set of a wish list of people we'd like to get on immediately, and we sort of planned that tour around those people in London, New York, Boston, and we were quite lucky. We did people that some people I've known, and some people I've known well and not so well, and we were able to do people from Noam Chomsky at one end to Sheldon Glasser, Nobel Prize winning physicist, to Ricky Gervais, Stephen Fry, and that was a great way to start things. And then as we built up, and happily we have a fine external advisory board too, who helped, I think, give people confidence in what we're doing. But as we built up with those initial, sometimes very high profile people, I think it was easier for other people to agree to be on. And then we just went through. And there's some people, over the years that I've finally gotten that I've had to wait 3 or 4 years for, that I wanted to do for a while. And there are a bunch of people I still am waiting to do, who we agreed to do it 3 or 4 years ago, and we still haven't done it. So.
Really? Jeez. Yeah, because did you have interviewing experience prior to starting this podcast?
Yes, I mean, I ran an institute where we ran public events, and I moderated panels for almost 10 years on stage before 2 to 3,000 people. And, but and sometimes it was one-on-one things, not just panels. I did a big events with people like Johnny Depp, and I did one with Noam Chomsky and other people, over the years, Alan Alda. And so I'd done things on stage one-on-one, and so that I guess I, felt I could do the podcast. Now, my things are not interviews, they're dialogues, because they're people I know or
Sure.
they know me, and so we go back and forth. And some people don't like that, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, was there, I suppose, a certain guest that you've had on that challenged your views in a sort of unexpected way?
Many guests do. I try to span. I try not to have an echo chamber, and I try and span people from not only from different disciplines, which is really fun because then I learn a lot, but different attitudes about the world. And yeah, I mean, so there are people that I agree with on some things and people I don't agree with on other things. Um, and those are sometimes some of the more interesting dialogues when we can touch base. Even people I agree with, on, um, on some things. Uh, I had a well-known economist friend of mine who's very well-known, and we agree on a lot of things. I'm not sure we agree on Israel completely. Um, but we agree on Ukraine, and Jordan Peterson and I, this is Jeffrey Sachs, by the way, who's a great economists and public intellectuals. Jordan Peterson and I disagree about lots of things and agree about some things. So yeah, anyway, I like to try and learn and be challenged by each person I speak to, so it isn't just a love fest, if it's
Yeah,
possible.
yeah, because I imagine you keep a good job of keeping it strictly a conversation, never into, like, a debate with people that vastly disagree with your views.
Yeah, debates are not useful at all. I find they're rhetorical things. I've been involved in many debates, and I don't like them because they're really mostly rhetorical. And and so yeah, I don't particularly like debating. So I'd much rather have a conversation on stage or or uh, or um yeah, on stage or on the podcast.
Yeah, and is there any type of question or theme you keep returning to on the podcast because it feels just super fascinating or kind of unresolved, and you just love asking elusive people that similar question or theme just to see their elusive perspectives on it?
Yeah, I think yeah, yeah. Well, there was for a while I liked talking to different people about the notion of offense since I've written about it in the new book, which I should hold up. It would be crazy not to the war on science that just last week. But the fact that people somehow think being offended matters and somehow gives them special rights to things is something I've talked to a lot of people about. I've talked in the early days to my friend Christopher Hitchens, Stephen Fry, other people, because it's so important to counter this ridiculous notion of somehow being offended matters. It gives you some rights to anything, or that you should have a right to protect yourself from being offended. None of which is true. Um, Also, I've done a few podcasts about public issues, um, Ukraine, for example. I've done a variety of different podcasts with them, and Noam Chomsky and I have talked a lot about politics. But of course, I've just completed a mammoth 20 podcasts in 20 days with 20 of the authors from the War on Science, talking about issues related to what's going on in academia. So that's certainly a topic I've returned to a lot in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, yeah, I guess what were your biggest takeaways during those multiple elusive dialogues?
Well, I think, I mean, since I'd edited the book with these authors and I knew what they'd written, I think what the takeaway is that the threats are diverse and many and don't depend upon discipline, um, and um, and need to get the attention of the public and to get the attention of our colleagues. That there are that of course that there's an external war on science in the United States, especially coming from this current government, but internally there's a culture war that has really infiltrated science and scholarship more than I think most people realize. When I talk to people, each of these people, I'm often amazed at the examples that you would never believe could exist and how standard science has been hijacked and simple scientific notions that are true are now, not allowed to be talked about. It's scary. And so anyway, I think I encourage your listeners to go to the podcast and listen to some of those 20 different ones, ranging from medicine to classics to mathematics, even, and how ideas that somehow mathematics is somehow needs to be decolonized, as if the power series for pi depends upon who's saying it or when. It's just ludicrous notions, and how people have been canceled for saying there are two sexes biologically, which is true biologically. And it's just, or even for asking questions about whether indigenous knowledge is appropriate in an astronomy class, and whether and people could be canceled just for asking those questions, and the fear that's happening in the community, and the and the attacks on medical knowledge, and which is really bad because people's lives depend upon it. When medical organizations would rather virtue signal about issues of social justice than teach young doctors medicine is scary.
Are you optimistic or pessimistic that this war would subside over time?
Well, all things will pass. It'll subside over time, but the longer it goes on, the more the country, the nation, and in some sense, science worldwide will be hurt. I'm optimistic. Otherwise, I wouldn't have written the book or edited the book because I would have thought it was a lost cause. That perhaps the peak is gone because the public is beginning to realize how crazy some of this stuff is, and that's slowly beginning to affect even academic leaders who seem to be the last ones to get the message that virtue signaling is ridiculous and defending free speech, free inquiry, and scientific integrity is what they're supposed to be doing. So yeah, I think in the long run, it's gonna subside like most things, but it's already caused other damage because now it's encouraged the government in the United States to attack all of science as if it's all left wing woke, and that's hurting a tremendous amount of research in the country. So it's already hurting the country in many ways. And yeah, so I'm thinking that things, pendulums swing, and and this will swing too. But hopefully by speaking out and having people from well-known people inside of academia and many disciplines and many different political persuasions. So it can't be viewed as a right-wing attack or left-wing attack here, the war that we're talking about. Um, uh, I think hopefully we can encourage academics to begin to act and the public to begin to know what's going on, and that I believe that education is the way to change things.
Yeah, forgive me if I missed this detail, but are you saying this attack is coming more from a political angle and not anything that's people would probably assume it's more religious of an angle that would
No,
attack?
this is pure politics,
Pure
pure
politics.
secular religion. There have been many attacks on science from religion over the years, and I've spoken about it, of course. And on the right wing, there are still right wing attacks on science from religion as well. I mean, efforts to stifle teaching of evolution or impose religious dogma. But this is secular dogma. This is the claim that racism and sexism are ingrained in every activity that humans make, including science, and that if in some discipline there are fewer than people of a certain gender or sex or race than there are in the background population, that must be due to sexism or racism. Nonsense.
Oh, I wanted to ask you one more Origins podcast question. Might be two more, but you probably get this a lot. But what guests did you have on that were just, I guess you would describe it as maybe scary smart or shocked you with their intellectual scale?
Well, I usually choose people because they impress me in advance being scary smart, and so I mean, actually, Stephen Fry constantly impresses me with his knowledge, broad knowledge of so many different fields. So Stephen Fry is scary smart. Jeffrey Sachs is another person that's scary smart. He's so well informed. I mean, I obviously have known Noam now. Noam was older, but I've known Noam Chomsky is obviously scary smart. And of course, my physics colleagues, and now I've interviewed a number of my friends who've won the Nobel Prize, and some of them are scary smart, some of them aren't. But uh, but I think Ricky Gervais is great. I mean, his background and his interest in philosophy and science is wonderful. And of course, I knew Cormac McCarthy, the famous author, known him as a friend, but people don't realize what an incredibly knowledgeable he was about physics.
Yeah, because he is an author that wrote Blood Meridian and other books
Flat
such as
Meridian,
that.
No Pretty Horses, No Country for Old Men or whatever, and The Road, perhaps the most dystopic book ever written.
Yeah, and you also it sounds like you also have your guests fluctuate towards, you said, I think you mentioned film earlier. So you have sort of a passion there for the movie industry, sounds like.
Oh, I've been involved in it for a lot. I made movies, and so I've known a lot of people in the film industry in one way or another, and so I've had my friend Werner Herzog, who's a director, and I've been in two of his movies, and Woody Allen on, and a number of people who either act or make movies. So yeah, it's it's I'm going to have another friend of mine, a director friend of mine, coming on, Michael Mann, And I think it's because they reach a lot of people, and it's what's really interesting is that some of these people are really deep thinkers about the world, and they're making interesting pieces of art, and that's true for writers too, like Cormac or Ian McEwan, another wonderful author who I've had on and a good friend. Anyway,
Dang, Michael Mann would be a cool guest, especially since he's writing. I think they're in the production of Heat 2, unless
yeah,
I misheard that.
when we met last year, he gave me the draft of Heat 2, and
Oh,
so
so you've read the script, at least the
yeah,
draft.
yeah.
Are you optimistic about it?
Well, he's a great director. It'll be action packed, but anyway, yeah, I'm not.
Yeah. So are you?
Well, when I have him on, you can hear what he has to say about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So are you like a? I don't want to assume you're a science fiction movie lover as well. Do you? I guess does your love expand over many genres of film?
Well, I wrote the physics of Star Trek, and so I'm sort of I have that, and that became a very popular book years ago, but perhaps before you were born. Um, and so I like science fiction, some science fiction, a lot of it I don't. A great guest I've had on was my friend William Shatner, and that was a fun guest. And he's really another person who's actually pretty scary smart and really excited and knowledgeable and interested in the world, even at 95. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's some good, and I've had Alex Garland, who made Ex Machina, a director on, and so yeah. So there's some science fiction I like. A lot of it I find very very facile, but that's okay.
Okay, I have to ask you this then. Have you seen the movie Arrival?
Yeah, and a lot of people liked it. I didn't like it, so there you go.
You didn't like it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, but no, I found it tedious. Anyway,
What's okay?
I
I
don't
have
want
to ask you.
I don't wanna do drama, and I hated Interstellar too, if you're gonna ask me about that, but
Oh,
anyway.
I had a feeling you wouldn't like that one, but I was gonna ask you what like your I guess your Mount Rushmore of films or science fiction films.
Well, no, I don't think in terms of best or greatest. I just don't. And so, there's a lot of them I like. I like some of the Star Trek films, but I liked 2001: Space Odyssey, but I was young during that time. Um, but I like Blade Runner, the original, and there's a lot of them I like. I'm pretty easily entertained. It's just if the plot becomes so silly that I can't suspend disbelief, then I give up on the movie.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that's fair. Okay, cool.
And
Well,
and, and what was the one? Yeah, Contact was pretty good with Jodie Foster. Anyway,
ooh,
and Carl Sagan wrote it. Yeah. Anyway,
you ever see You see Independence Day?
The Who?
Independence Day?
Yeah, of course. My friend Bill Pullman's in it, the president. He'll be on the podcast too. But yeah,
Oh, that'd be a good one.
yeah. No, there were parts of Independence Day I like. I mean, I like the actors, and yeah. So I enjoyed actually for some reason. I wrote about Independence Day in one of my books, Beyond Star Trek. I wrote about all the major scientific errors that were in it. That's a but I still enjoyed it.
Okay.
I
Well,
I enjoyed it. I mean, I didn't enjoy every aspect of it. The raw gung ho patriotism thing kind of made me puke, but the rest was okay.
yeah, I always thought it's hilarious how this advanced technology aliens come to Earth and we somehow win. I never really understood that.
I don't know. Yeah. Everyone seems to think we're of interest. We're not. Anyway,
Okay. And so do you think public hunger for scientific literacy is growing or shrinking in the age of misinformation, all this divisiveness within the masses, whether it's through politics or whatnot?
well, I think what's unfortunate, we're experiencing a time when science is being distrusted like it never has been in my life, and that's unfortunate because it's become so politicized. Obviously, COVID was a big part of it, which was a great learning moment for about how science can and should be done. Um, but um, but it wasn't done that way, and so that they're at the forefront. There's lots of uncertainty and tentativeness, and we can do experiments, we test things. Some work, some don't. Don't we make progress by baby steps? But none of that happened, and as a result, that became politicized, and then many other aspects of science became politicized, with the left saying it's racist or white supremacist, and the right saying it's, um, it's too liberal. So, whatever. Anyway, well, it's unfortunate because, it's really demeaned science. Forget scientists who used to be more respected, but science itself should be respected because it's all that stands between us and a pretty dismal future. The way we need science to meet the challenges of the 21st century appropriately, and to make a future better than it is today. And we risk, giving up, uh, our, our forefront efforts to explore new science and discover more about the world. We risk that at our peril.
Yeah, because it sounds like it even makes really cool things happening in science right now kind of hidden because of all this disdain for it. Like, I'm sure there's a bunch of things happening or on the rise of scientific discoveries that people will have their minds blown by, but we
Yeah,
just don't
people
know
close
about
their
because it.
and it used to be religion that would close their minds off. It used to be, "Oh, I don't wanna hear about blah, blah, I don't wanna hear about biology or blah, or physics." Or the beginning Big Bang or whatever. I mean, it used to be that religious people were some religious people, fundamentalists particularly, were afraid of hearing it. But now there's other people who somehow think, "Oh, it's all wrong. All of the you know, all of modern science is wrong." And if they believe that, they shouldn't get on an airplane or use a telephone or use a computer, but it's just embarrassing.
Yeah, because I guess, maybe I'd be interested to hear if you knew about any sort of like, what are some scientific discoveries on the rise right now that the majority of the public is very unaware of that you could think of offhand?
Well, I mean, I try and I have a month. One of the things I do in the podcast is I talk to a physicist named Sabina Hassenfelder, and once a month we go, "What's new in science?" And we review the new things and exciting things that are going on, and some of the stuff that's been too hyped and it's kind of nonsense. I mean, there's tons every day. There's new things. Science is. I mean, the universe. I like to say every day I'm surprised if I'm not surprised. Um, from new things having to do with the quantum mechanics of materials to discoveries about the early history of the universe. Um, that's just in physics, but in genetics and I mean, every day new wonderful things are being explored. I mean, there aren't new revolutions every day. Science proceeds by baby steps, but every as Richard Feynman said, if you look into anything deeply enough, it gets fascinating.
Yeah, what are the I guess the scientific discoveries, inventions right now that you think are kinda overblown?
Well, I think there's a lot of hype about AI. That's for sure. I think we hear AI this, AI that. I think that's overblown. Another area that's overblown, that's a field of science that's almost pseudoscience half the time, is a field called astrobiology, where every week we hear about some new habitable planet, and which is probably not habitable, but people want to get excited by suggesting that they've discovered a nearby planet that may have an atmosphere like Earth. So far, we haven't found any. Um, and those are two things, AI, that I mean, oh, some every week I hear that, Einstein's wrong or there's some new revision, and that's usually nonsense. Or the Big Bang never happened, and that's nonsense. So, um, this as if some new discovery is overturning our picture of Big Bang. That hasn't happened and won't happen. Um, and again, at the forefront, there's lots of tentative new steps and certain results that don't seem to make sense. Often they're wrong, but but the process of science is what's important. The process of science of constantly asking questions and testing and retesting and confronting ideas and using your reason and then empirical evidence to guide you. That process overcomes the sort of fads of science and scientists. So eventually we make our way to the truth, even if it's a long and winding road.
What do you think a part of a perhaps issue with the perception on science right now is how it's communicated? Do you think that should be communicated in a different way or
Well,
taught that's
there's a well, there are a lot of science communicators out there, more than when I began 30 or 40 years ago doing this. So there's lots of ways people can get their science, and so there's lots of neat resources online. I don't think that's as possible. That's the problem as much as the strong efforts from outside science in one way or another, um, uh, um, uh, um, um, in one way or another to politicize it. And I think that's really the biggest problem. It's not so much. I mean, people are fat. Well, the media puts down science, uh, and makes us. They constantly think that people aren't interested in it, but they are. People are fascinated. Uh, in people are fascinated by science, but for some reason, TV people don't think that's true, and so um, they won't often produce science on TV unless it's hyped, on aliens or something like that. And yeah, and I think to some extent, science fiction gives people a misperception of how science is done. Like every major problem can be solved in 3 hours if you just work at it. And that's a real problem as well too. And I think people, for example, don't realize what an amazing thing it was to develop a vaccine in less than a year or two, where it usually takes 30 years. For some people, that a year may seem so long, but in actual fact, compared to how long it takes to make major developments, that's nothing.
yes. I remember thinking that because during the COVID times, I remember thinking, "We came up with the vaccine so quick. How long would this have taken if it was, say, to the year 2000 versus 2020 or the year 2010 versus 2020?"
Oh, it would have
You
been.
think that woulda
We didn't have mRNA technology in 2020, which is one of the key things that helped develop vaccines. Not the only thing. Um, uh, um, a- and, and and even though now in the states, the idiot in charge of Health and Human Services is cutting down all research on mRNA vaccines, which is ridiculous in the extreme. Um, but yeah, I mean, and the ability to we wouldn't been able to genetically, we wouldn't be able to do the genome. We wouldn't, or not the genome, but just sequence uh, the virus itself. And so, I mean, none of that technology existed in easily in 20 years ago. So yeah,
Yes.
and it's amazing, and, that's part of the progress of science, and people should be thankful instead of saying, "Oh, this new technology might be dangerous," or it might I hear someone said something and, blah, 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 and we shouldn't be doing this because, um, I don't believe it, and because I didn't like the guy who talked about it, or something like that.
Yeah. Are there any big topics or ideas within science, philosophy, all that they used to be very certain about that you now approach with more skepticism or ambiguity?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I was saying, are there any topics or ideas in philosophy, science, all of that, those bigger concepts that used to approach or sorry, they used to be certain about, but now you approach it with more skepticism?
I try not to be certain of anything except, well, I'm reasonably certain the sun is gonna rise tomorrow, but it's still only likely. Um, uh, uh, and so I like to be wrong. Um, and so well, I'll give you an example. I used to think that the energy of empty space was clearly 0 because it was the only sensible value for that. Why would empty space, if you get rid of everything in it, suddenly have energy? And it just seemed ludicrous in the extreme. And, and then I looked at evidence in 1995 and argued, you know what? I think there's energy in empty space, and it was just so crazy. And I wasn't sure if I really believed it. But then 3 years later, it was discovered. So that was one of the biggest changes in my picture of what was sensible about the universe that I know.
When y when you do, like, public conversations or even talks, what's the most common question you usually get?
Oh, what's if the universe is expanding, what's it expanding into? What happened before the Big Bang? Um, if there are other universes, are they gonna collide with ours? If there are other universes, is there someone like me in them? Um, um, Let me think.
I assume you get the alien question a lot too.
Oh yeah, yeah. Do you think the aliens? Do you think there's aliens coming to visit us, or do you think there's that life exists elsewhere in the universe? I wrote a book. The last book before this new one is in the States anyway, called The Edge of Knowledge, and it's about what we know we don't know about the universe, and it treats five subjects: space, time, space, matter, life, and consciousness, and um, and the fundamental outstanding questions in all those fields are the same questions everyone's had for millennia. Are we alone? How did the universe begin? Is it finite? How did life arise on Earth? What will artificial intelligence be conscious? There's all the standard questions that everyone has are the questions that science continues to grapple with.
Yeah. And then I guess because you've been in this field for, I assume, around 50 plus years.
I bet I was I no 40 years since I became a professor. Um, let's see. Yeah, 40 years since I first became a professor. Mhm.
Do you ever plan on retiring, or do you think you'll be doing science until?
I retired from my academic position almost a decade ago, but I continue to do science, yeah.
So that'll never stop, you think?
Well, I continue to ask questions, I continue to write, and I mean, it's lifelong learning, so I'm not as active in that in collaborations as I was before, but, um but I try to continue to do it. More of my time is spent writing now than doing science, but I there are a few key every now and then I have an idea and I work on it, so I just published a few papers. So, yeah, I mean, I think you should continue. I'll continue to do what interests me. I mean, it was never work. It's always been what's interests me, so it's not work. And so yeah, I think I'll just continue to do it.
And when you look back at your career, what sort of achievements do you feel the most either emotionally connected to or just the most professionally proud of?
Well, again, I try to it's not for me to say what I do what I do and I try and do it well as I can and and then move on and it won't be for me to decide what's most important but for me it was very satisfying to be the first person to to propose one of the first people to propose that empty space had energy and won Nobel Prize 10 years later it was it was nice to be the sort of the first person to know something about the universe that's an amazing feeling after the fact anyway, to be right about something like that. Um, but I think some of my popular work, my books that have had a big impact, I know because people have become scientists who've read my books in the past, everything from back from the physics of Star Trek to Universe of Nothing and other books. So I don't know which of my stuff is going to be most important, but I just do it because I like to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was satisfying to from a scientific perspective, it was satisfying to glean some insight, deep insight into the nature of the universe. That was with dark energy, that was a remarkably satisfying development for me.
Yeah, and how has because you talked about not retiring because 'cause you'll always be able to ask questions, discover more, all of this. How has would you describe how aging has affected your curiosity? Are there subjects you now find fascinating that your younger self wouldn't even looked
Yeah,
at or
well, I
vice
mean,
versa?
I'm aging, it's wisdom, yeah, I didn't biology wasn't interesting when I was younger, and I didn't do biology, and I've learned a lot since, and now it's a fascinating field, genetics and biochemistry, and I mean, it's just amazing what can be done. So yeah, and I was always I've been a theoretical physicist, but my respect for experiments continued to grow the older I got, and my envy for people who build experiments that work, So yeah, so and I've learned that there's so many areas of human activity which there's excellence that I wasn't aware of, and people who are excellent, and so I become more humble, even though maybe people don't believe it. I certainly realize how many remarkable areas there are that I don't know about.
Mm. Do you ever think about what you would say to your younger self before getting into scientific academia or just into, I guess, science in general?
No, I mean, just continue to just, um, but I felt this way even then. But continue to plug away and do what interests you, and don't let the bastards get you down. That's uh, that's that's my advice to anyone. Just do what you enjoy, and then see what happens. And 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 don't be and take failure to when something doesn't work, um, as an opportunity to do something new or to use what you've learned, and to also um, be um, be careful about the fact that the world isn't as nice a place as you might have thought.
Yeah, and well, it sounds like you don't have any regrets.
I think regret isn't particularly useful. There are things I'm unhappy that I've done in my life, but I'm not sure that maybe. I mean, there we all have done things, and there are things, opportunities, and that I didn't take advantage of that I might have, but the other things come along. I think recognizing th- these things is important, and learning from them is important. But living well is the best revenge. Maybe that's a good way, because I think, man, that's my advice to people. Living well is the best revenge. Don't just do what you enjoy, do it well, and try not to let other people get and care and be kind. Yeah, those that's I sound like I don't know why I sound like Kurt Vonnegut, but anyway, be kind.
Yeah, so I guess too, because people like yourself, high intellectuals, a lot of times will come across questions or topics that they really struggle with almost. They'll constantly think about it, all these things. Do you still have any of those questions that keep you up at night that you just want to know the answer to deeply, or are you
Of
more
course, the same
playful with
questions.
these questions than anything?
The same questions I've had in science for 30 years, and I sometimes think about them and work on them. The deep questions are hard, and most of the time you don't make progress, but it's fun to try. It's the trying that matters.
Is
The
is
nature
there
of
one
dark
question?
matter, how to explore, I have ideas every day on how we might look for new kinds of dark matter. What's the source of the energy of empty space? Are there, uh, 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 why are there four forces in nature? Um, can we understand? Are there other universes? I mean, there are lots of questions of how is gravity a quantum theory? There's lots of things I think about trying to figure out. So we'll see.
If there was one question you could find out definitively, what would it be, you think?
Um, does the universe have to be the way it is, or could it exist fine if the laws of physics were different?
Interesting. Oh,
I think I do
I'm
think
curious.
I have to go in a minute because I just realized I have one other thing that I have to do today. So
Okay, that's okay. We can cut it here. Lawrence, I appreciate the time to come on. Very fun speaking with you. I know you've given us advice already, but there's any last tidbits you'd like to say to the audience?
just keep asking questions and let the universe guide you, and may the force be with you.
Th- Thank you, Lawrence. Take care.
Okay, you take care. Sorry I had to rush off, but thanks
No,
again.
you're fine. You're fine. Appreciate it. Take care.
Free audio post production by alphonic.com.